something ridiculous here, y'all. We're about to see something ridiculous here, y'all. We're about to see something ridiculous here, y'all.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Corey, Travis here, MileSplit Live, presented by New Balance, our last show before the Christmas break.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to get to. Obviously, we unleashed a pretty big ranking set this week. Travis, I think you're going to get into this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. For the first time ever, we have released the MileSplit50 indoor track and field rankings, subjective indoor rankings. This has never been done before. We are looking at the best athlete across every single event, whether you're a sprinter, you're a distance runner, field events, race walk, we got you covered, and we're giving you a true sort of power ranking of the best athletes across every single event in track and field. So first, let's get into what the MileSplit50 rankings are, because that's an important thing to understand as we go into it. We looked at a number of different factors to try to create the most accurate rankings that we possibly could. We looked at the returning ranking of all the athletes in every single event. We looked at major wins, big-time performances. We used a formula to look at the IAAF points. IAAF rewards a points system for every single event, so you can compare, say, a 6.8 in the 60-meter dash to a 4-minute mile, and you can compare those numbers based off of that. So we used the IAAF point system to give us a ballpark area to compare all these performances across different events. And then we looked at relays, we looked at outdoor track progression, we considered cross country for distance runners, but these are indoor track and field rankings. We put more weight on championship contested events. Everything from the 55, 3, 6, and the 1K were looked at, but events and championship events were weighted the most, as well as athletes who competed in relays. This is not who is the best athlete of all time, maybe Mondo Duplantis because he has the most credentials at the world stage, but this is a high school indoor track and field ranking, and that's what these are meant to reflect, Corey.
Yeah, it's a fantastic display of not just a single event and the athletes in that event, but overall how everybody stacks up organically, I think. And the numbers show with IAAF scoring tables and how they calculate it, so it really does show.
And the more information we get as we go along, the better. The first week one, which is up right now, heavily relies on returning rankings, but as the season goes, it'll get updated. There's not as much data available on relays. It's extremely difficult to look through hundreds of athlete profiles and figure out what relays they competed at or didn't. So the more information you can provide us, the better. You can message us on Twitter. You can email me, travis.miller@flowsports.tv. We've already collected a lot of great info today. One of our bubble athletes, Shania Hall from Bullis, our Virginia webmaster, reached out, provided some more information on how she's contributed and what she might be looking ahead towards this year, as well as the Matha Catholic sprinter, Brendan Stewart. So we already have some athletes who are moving onto our watch list from information that you have all sent us. So make sure you contact us because we want to provide the most accurate rankings as possible, but they're already getting a lot of traction. High school track and field has never seen something like this, so we're really pumped about what it's going to develop through this season.
We're going to talk about the top 5, aren't we?
Oh, man, yeah, we are.
Let's start with the girls. I think you're at number 5 first.
Yes, absolutely. So coming in at number 5 is Kelsey Camille. Kelsey Camille is one of the top returning athletes in the distance events across the entire country. She's ranked top 5 in a bunch of events, including the 1500, the mile, the 3K, and the 2 mile. She was 3rd in the 2 mile nationals last year. She won the 3K at the New York State meet. She has strong performances at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix and the Millrose Games. Camille is one of the top athletes to watch. She's really strong. She competes on Saratoga's top-ranked relay teams as well, and she's coming off of a strong performance at nationals. That's why Kelsey Camille first breaks into that top 5 in the Week 1 rankings. Corey, who do you have at number 4?
At number 4, we have Rem Miner of Denver East. She is a junior with that club and a phenomenal sprinter. She returns as the number 3 returning sprinter in the 60-meter dash and number 1 in the 200-meter dash. And she really stormed on the scene 2 years ago as a really great freshman, but now as a junior, upperclassman, veteranship, she's really performed well. Last year at Great Southwest, she ran 23.57 seconds in the 200-meter dash. She's a really big threat at the national scene to really do well. You should expect Rem Miner to be one of the top contending sprinters this season.
All right, Corey, you're talking about a sprinter. I'm going to one-up you another sprinter in Thelma Davies from Pennsylvania. She doubled up at the Pennsylvania State meet last year in the 60-meter and the 200-meter dash. She's a number 1 returner in the 60. She competed well at nationals, and she's number 3 returner in the 200-meter dash. Last year at the national championship, there were only 2 athletes who were not seniors who qualified for the 60-meter dash final. Thelma Davies was one of those. She finished 3rd overall at the national championship, which is why she is the number 3 in this first release of the MileSplit50 rankings. That there was her state championship winning performance in the 200, but it gets even better than that, Corey, because we got to go down to number 2.
Number 2, Caitlin Chuy of North Rockland, the superstar sophomore we all love in cross country. She was our number 1 athlete over the cross country season 1 and set a ton of records. But now, new season, indoor season, she is the top returner in the 1K, the 1500 meter, and the mile. And as we've seen in the cross country season where she made a gigantic leap there, we're going to probably see another gigantic leap in the indoor season. She has a lot of records that she can kind of shoot for at the 1500 and the mile, possibly Mary Kane's record, 4:11 in the 1500, 4:28 in the mile. But Caitlin Chuy, she's going to start with the VA Showcase, which is live on MileSplit and FlowTrack. She's going to go for a 5K record. Brea Oakley set it last year at New Balance Nationals Indoor of 15:55.75. So Caitlin Chuy is going to start with the 5K. She's got a host of other races that she's probably going to look to set records on. She's our number 2 indoor returner.
Give me a drum roll, number 1, baby. Let's go. It is Lynette Thomas. Move over, LaDainian Thomason. There's a new LT in town. It's Lynette Thomas. She's coming at number 1. Huge returning performances. Number 1 in the long jump. Top 5 in the 55 and the 200. She's also a top 7 returner in the 300-meter dash if she tears it up in the VA Showcase right here in this video. But she's already off to a super strong start this season. She's gone over 20 feet in the long jump already. She's gone 39 seconds in the 300. She was 2nd in the 200 meter at the national championship last year. She's got a lot of depth. She has strong performances proven in major events like you're watching here in the VA Showcase. She's a contributor on the 4x2 for Rush Henrietta. Last year, if we had released the MileSplit50 rankings, we probably would have seen a Rush Henrietta on the top, Henrietta athlete in the top, and Sammy Watson. But it's okay for the team out of West New York because they're still back on top with Lynette Thomas, and that's why she is the number 1 athlete in Week 1 of the MileSplit50. That's it for the girls. Corey, who we got on the boys' side?
This is a big name at number 5, Mondo Duplantis of Lafayette High in Louisiana. He is an LSU signee, world junior record holder in the pole vault. And if you look at what he's been able to do, single most important athlete in a single event. Based on the IAAF scoring tables, he's the most impactful in any given event, but we're looking at versatility here. That's why he's number 5. Now, he competed at the World Championships last year in London. Really good result there. He pole vaulted 19.4.25 at the Texas Relays to open up his outdoor season last year. He also vaulted over 19 feet in the indoor season last year. Really qualified, fantastic pole vaulter. He's going to have a ton of great performances in 2018.
Yeah, and I got to move down to number 4, and I got to go with my guy Eric Allen out of Bullis. They have a lot of girls in the girls' rankings, but for him, he's a top 5 returner in the 200 and the 300, and he's got some decent 400-meter creds as well. Bullis is one of the top-ranked teams in the 4x2 and the 4x4, and so Eric Allen's a really valuable athlete at the high school indoor track and field level because he doesn't only have range at this in the sprints, but also in the individual relays as well. And for him, he's already off to a decent start. He's run 48.6 in the 400-meter dash already in 2018. So we've seen he's in good form. He has plenty of credentials coming from last year, and he has the ability to compete and contribute as an individual and on relays, which is why he comes in at number 4.
Number 3, Birdie Hasty of Brentwood High in Tennessee. He was our number 1 cross-country runner over the entire cross-country season. Goes into the indoor campaign with a lot of resumes, or a big resume as well. He won the 2-mile championship at New Balance Nationals Indoor last year. He's running unattached as he did in the cross-country season, so you're going to see him in a selection of meets, not a lot, but Birdie's really going to pick his races. He ran 4:08 last year at Milrose in the full mile. He could go for a sub-4 effort this year indoors. So Birdie Hasty's going to be a really interesting guy to watch. He also is fantastic in the 3,000, the 3,200 meter, and the 2-mile. He was the number 4 returner in the 1,000 meters. So look out for Birdie Hasty to be a big, big impact athlete this year.
Yep, and the question now, who's at number 2? It's Kyle Garland out of Pennsylvania. Where do you even start with this guy? He's the national champion in pentathlon. He returns as number 1 there. He's a number 2 returner in the high jump. He's a number 4 returner in the 60 hurdles. He's top 15 in the long jump. Here he is winning the Pennsylvania state meet last year, and he's already off to a hot start right now. He has state titles to his name, national championship titles, but on top of that, he's already PR'd twice in the 55 hurdles this season. He's PR'd in the shot put. He's winning big meets. He's off to a really strong start, and for him, it's going to be tough for anyone to move above our number 1 guy in the rankings. But I think if Kyle Garland keeps up the progression we've seen this year across the number of events that he is competing in, you could see Kyle Garland moving up to number 1.
Who do we got at number 1? I don't think it's any secret, but at number 1 for our boys MileSplit50 rankings, it's Tyrese Cooper of Miami Norland. He is only a junior, and he is the returning New Balance Nationals indoor champ in both the 200 and the 400. He broke class records in the 300 meter and 500 meter runs last year, and he also runs 21:05 in the 200, and I want to say 46:01 in the 400 meter. So
really fast.
he's very versatile, though. He can really race anywhere from the 200 on to the 500. We're going to see Tyrese Cooper break a lot of records again, possibly this year. He's a little bit wiser, a little stronger, a little more mature. So Tyrese Cooper is headed for big things this year in the indoor season.
Yeah, I mean, that concludes our speed round to the first round of the MileSplit50. It is really tough because there are so many talented athletes in this group. I know one we'll definitely get a lot of questions about is Mondo being as good as he is. And if you looked at who is the most valuable individual athlete, like you mentioned, you go with Mondo. There's no one else in this group of athletes who compares at an international level. But the reality is, at the high school stage, he's not. His ceiling is pretty low because he competes in the pole vault. Mondo, try out the long jump maybe. Go for the triple. Who knows? Then maybe he can move up in the MileSplit50. But I think with as good as these athletes are, especially in that 6 to 15 range, you can see the full list on MileSplit, he might even fall a little lower.
Yeah, and I think, like we've spoken about, it's all about versatility here. It's possibly who could win me a meet, not just an event.
Right.
So a guy like Tyrese Cooper, especially a guy like Kyle Garland, who's like the LeBron of high school track and field, those guys really put value in every single event that they're in. So that's why there's so much stock in these two athletes at the top. But of this list, we have a lot of newcomers, some mystery athletes that have made their name into the list early on with performances in the end of 2017 and into the 2018 season. So I guess we should start with a guy named Christopher Moore of Clinton High out of Mississippi. He ran the fastest 400-meter time on December, all-time record, 47.89. It was his all-time PR. And that really matters because Christopher Moore is not really experienced. He ran just one race last year, indoor season, before an injury kind of held him out of the rest of the campaign. But Christopher Moore has 2 more meets left in his winter season, and he has the potential to break 47 seconds. This is a guy who's going to go on to Hines Community College, JUCO route, but a lot of great successful athletes have come out of Hines Community College, and he's got a lot of talent from Mississippi, so we should really watch out for a guy like that.
And Akeem Moore right on his heels in this video. They're both neck and neck in the MileSplit50 rankings right now. They originally weren't in there, in the top 50 at all, based on where they had come from last year, but they've quickly solidified themselves as athletes to watch. For me, when I was looking at it, someone who stood out to me, and I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize, is Samara Killebrew out of Indiana. doesn't have as much of the track records out there. Here she is at the AU Junior Olympics over the summer, but she is the number 6 returner in the 60. Not as strong when she moves up to the 200-meter dash, but she's the number 6 returner in the 60-meter. And the reason why she got bumped up into the top 15 of this first release in the MileSplit 50 is really because of what she accomplished in the 60-meter this year, in December, because she ran 7:46 in her season opener. And yes, that sounds fast at face value, but to put some perspective around that, last year Jayla Kirkland ran 7:48 in December, so 0.02 of a second slower than what Killebrew is running right now. Kirkland went on to win nationals in 7:27. So if Killebrew keeps up this progression at a similar rate as Kirkland, she's a potential national champion in this event, and that's why that she got bumped up in the top 15.
Now, 2 guys that I think we're really going to have to pay attention to at the mid-distance level is Josh Hoey of Bishop Shanahan in Pennsylvania and Sam Affolter of Loudoun Valley, the NXN champs. Hoey is 7, Affolter is 10, but based on their early December performances, they moved up ever so slightly in that list. Hoey went 4:12.60 in the 1 mile, and he also went 3:57 in the 1,500 meters. He's a really strong 800-meter runner, but all through the mid-distance events, he can hang on his own. Sam Affolter, he's a guy, just by look and feel, he looks like a really, really strong, competent runner. He opened up his season with a 4:11.27 in the 1,600 meter and 2:30 in the 1,000. He's a guy who's really strong when he gets out there on the indoor track, and he could have a phenomenal season. He could really challenge Hoey at the national level, I think.
Yeah, Affolter too. He's got some relay credits to his name with that 4x4 that he ran. You know, the last person I really have to talk about here is Gabby Wilkinson. She was out last indoor season with an injury, so we didn't get to see her race indoors for the entire year, but she is back, and she's back in force. She already opened up. She's gone 2:14 in the 800. She's broken 5 in the full mile already this season. And so for her, she's already back on track, because that 2016 season, you're seeing her race and win the mile at the Pennsylvania State Championships right now in this video. She is one of the most talented middle distance athletes in the country. She has range. And for her, if she's back into that 2016 form, we saw her outdoors once she started racing in the 2017 outdoor season. She's got 2:06 800-meter speed. She's got the range to run up into that low 450 range in the mile. She's already in killer form with that 4:56 opener and that 2:14 800. It's still mid-December. You know, for her, they have a big season in Pennsylvania, so she's still moving up to peak form. So Wilkinson, one of the other athletes who moved up because she's run well in 2018 to really solidify that, yes, she's back for indoor track.
One of the big questions I think will probably get asked is that how do you value athletes that only compete once over the season, or athletes that maybe compete in an event that isn't as valued as maybe, you know, a sprint or a mid-distance event? So when you look at bubble athletes who did not make the top 50 in both the girls and the boys rankings, how do you solidify or signal sort of where they stand or how they can get on this board?
Yeah, and one guy I'm going to talk about first is KC Lightfoot out of Missouri in the pole vault. Initially, for this first week, he was off the list, but what he did this weekend down in Texas at the Lovejoy pole vault was incredible. He vaulted 17.6, which is a huge, almost a 1.5 feet further beyond where he was at this meet last year. It's just 0.5 inch off the top 10 all-time list in the pole vault. And our webmaster there, Will Grundy, said he took really good attempts at 17.9.5. So this is a guy who wasn't on the radar because he's a single event athlete, and those athletes aren't as valuable compared to those guys who are competing in multiple events and relays. But for him, he came out and proved that he's in really good form. He's close to an all-time list. That's a really big deal for indoor track and field. And so for him, that's why we moved him up, and he's now breaks into that list. It'll be tough for him to move higher, but sky's the limit. You know, horrible pun for the pole vault, but KC Lightfoot's moving in the right direction. And for these athletes who aren't on the list, maybe they didn't have major indoor seasons yet, they haven't competed a lot in the past. We see it pretty often as a senior, these athletes start to race a little more indoors as they look for a shot at a national title. To really show us what you have, you know, yeah. Prove yourselves.
And a guy that's on your bubble right now that, you know, is the leading returner in the shop is Nick Phelps out of Iowa. He's a guy probably can watch out for. He only competed twice last year, but he's really talented in those events. Cameron Murray out of Georgia as well. Really highly successful guy. These are 2 guys. In the outdoor season, it's no question, but I think indoor-wise, I mean, not as much.
Yeah, and that's the reality of indoor track. It's a very different animal compared to much of the country doesn't even compete, or they have 1 or 2 meets here and there. A few colleges host invitationals, but only a handful of states have true state-sanctioned, full seasons. And so for a lot of these athletes, if it was an all-around ranking or an outdoor track ranking, we'd see guys like Noah Greens and Eric Edwards ranked higher, but in the girls, a lot of Southern sprinters as well who aren't very high. But this is about indoor track and field, and a lot of other states figure into this situation more strongly.
Well, we're only just beginning. It's only
Yes.
December. We've had a few meets under our belt, but really the thick of things begins after the new year. On January 5th and 6th, we have a host of events that are taking place. Texas A&M Classic live on MileSplit. That's going to be a huge meet for a lot of great Southern athletes. But we also have Dartmouth Relays, BYU High School Invitational, and Ocean Breeze coming up. So the thick of indoor meets are going to begin after the new year, but they're going to really tell us a lot about where these athletes stand within their fitness, within their actual performance.
Yeah, that's right. Here, Texas A&M Classic, a lot of these other meets in the South, we have plenty of live track coming to you from the Crossplex. For these athletes in these Week 1 rankings, it is heavily dependent on where you were at previously, prior to this year. And now the Texas A&M meets, these meets in the South, for those athletes, the Texas athletes are in a dangerous position here in the MileSplit50 rankings because they are some of the top returners in the event, and you can look at athletes like Sha'Carri Richardson, Janiah Martin, some of these other Texas sprinters who are top 5 returners in their events, but you only raced 2 meets last year. And that's not a great position to be in because there's not a lot of value for them at the national level. Because while it's really impressive that a time you run in the first weekend of January holds up as a top 5 returning performance by the end of the season, if they don't race any more indoors after that, then other athletes are going to bump you down. And so meets like Texas A&M, Arkansas, see if they compete at Dunamis and whether or not they'll compete at the New Mountains Nationals this year. These early meets are really important to see where they're at because if they're a little off their A game compared to where they were in previous years, we're going to see these other athletes, the Shania Halls from Bullis, who are going to move up because they have long indoor seasons ahead. They're going to compete a lot, race on relays, like these Texas athletes can't. So Texas A&M, a lot of these other major invitations that are live on MileSplit are going to really play a major part in determining who is moving up or who's dropping out of the MileSplit50 rankings.
Now, they are subjective rankings, but they are heavily based in numbers, IAAF scoring tables, so that's going to register highly when we do the rankings. But we would always love to hear from you on Twitter, on Facebook. Who do you think is going to be #1 in the top 5, in the top 10? We always will take your comments and your insight. One of the big questions I have is Tyrese Cooper going to stay at #1 all year? Is Lynette Thomas going to stay at #1 all year? I don't know. I mean, she's very versatile, one of the most versatile girls in the nation, but you got a girl like Caitlin Chuy right on her heels. So I think it'll be interesting for some of these girls.
I think definitely that top 5, there's a kind of clear preseason #1 with Tyrese having all those national record performances, national championships on his belt. But Kyle Garland, just the number of events he can compete in, and some of these other guys who have relays, which Tyrese doesn't at the national level, he's not in a safe spot. If he maybe is racing a little bit less this year, that's going to factor into it as well. So I think that it's going to be tough for people to take them down. But Chuy, if she progresses in track like she did in cross, that's another record-breaking season ahead. Yeah,
I think if she goes after some of these records that Mary Kane has held in the 1,500 of the mile, I think you really have to consider maybe really early Caitlin Chuy as yet again a #1. And we had Caitlin Chuy in the cross-country season as #1 really early in the season. We sort of identified that, and she met the expectations. Despite all of the exposure that she has, she continues to run extremely well, so that's impressive too.
So what's up, Track Nation, that you're going to let a cross-country girl be #1? She was #1 in our cross-country rankings all season. You're going to let her be #1 in the track? Let's go. Got to prove yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're going to have more MileSplit lives after the new year. More on MileSplit50, rankings, everything, performances, meets. We'll talk about it all. Do you have anything else that we should get into before we leave it?
Again, I want to emphasize that the more information you all out there, all of you watching, can provide us, the more accurate our rankings can be. There's thousands of phenomenal athletes across the country. We want these to be as accurate as possible. We need your help in collecting all the information, letting us know what your season schedules are, what relays you're racing, if athletes are injured or not. All that's going to play into these rankings. So the more you can provide us, by Twitter, by email, carrier pigeon. We're going to look at it all. We're looking at everyone. We have over 5,000 athletes in the spreadsheet with the database, all the numbers we're looking at to build the MileSplit50 rankings. So while our bubble list on the site only includes about 10 or 15 athletes, there's a whole slew of athletes who are on our watch list, and we're looking at everything. So the more information you can provide us, the more accurate can let us be. And if you think we're wrong, let us know. Share your opinion.
Well, stay tuned for next time on MileSplit Live. We'll talk about all this and more. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you later.
Happy holidays.